And welcome to a Thursday night special. And as it says here, warning, warning, alert, NB, which is Latin for nota bene, which easily can be translated and understood as note well. Also, oh, there's Leonard. Welcome and greetings. Let's push the buttons now that I am getting better and more used to that. You're going to see things are getting better in some ways. It's a shame that after you get it all together, you die. And on that note, happy Thursday night. Yes. Seriously speaking, as I say here, warning, alert, nota bene, vigilance required. There's a little bit of a bullseye right there. Be prepared, the old Boy Scout motto. Get ready, new waves coming now. How about that for, do you get the sense that I'm not making this up and that it's not just me? Normally we start out in our Monday and Wednesday night exegetical exposition of what's really going on out there in the unseen, invisible world. Tonight being a Thursday special, and we're going to have two of them. We've got one tonight and one 2 weeks from tonight, because next week I can't do it. Yes, indeed. The interesting thing is that in a way, we are doing a chiasm, as they call it in the Greek, where one part starts at left bottom. Let me go ahead and write this down and show it to you. A chiasm, which is spelled C-H-I-A-S-M, from the Greek letter chi or key, and there's different ways to spell it. You can spell it C-H-I, and that's Greek. I'm writing it all down here, and it looks like this in Greek. And I should say it looks like that. Okay, now I'm going to grab the book that shows it. And in Essentials of New Testament Greek, which is a good beginner primer, the key, as in chemical, you can see it here both as an X and then the lowercase, the way I wrote it, kind of like that. 22nd letter of the Greek alphabet. There are 24, and there are different looks, which, by the way, you notice number 23, it looks screwed up there. The ink got screwed up. What a dumb thing to have happen. But anyway, all that, as they say, be that as it may, the word chiasm has to do with that idea. Let's now take that X and draw one. And if you were to start here at the bottom and go upward, one side is going to the top and the other one is not doing that. They're both starting on the same side. This one is going to go to the bottom. And now you see this pattern. And with this pattern, what happens is, and this gets back to the youth wasted on the young, what you end up with is, as you're going up and things are getting better, you're getting to know more and more. At the same time, you are degenerating and going downhill, and your body's falling apart and whatever else to the bottom, and you end up dead sooner or later. So with that concept of chiasm, I always say, well, everything keeps getting better and better, so I must be getting closer to dying, because when you finally get it all figured out, when that should be, like we said, the chiasm, that you should have had that at the beginning. It seems that when you finally get it all figured out, everything falls apart. And the reason for that is these bodies that we live in are not capable of eternal life because of the old sin nature. And so the idea that we have a part of us that from birth is starting to fall apart and degenerate, you have a choice. You can either enjoy your life and things can continue to become more and more interesting and make more and more sense, or you can, as many people do, you can become frustrated and bitter. And tonight we're going to see a lot about that as I'm looking at my notes here. The reason for tonight's little meeting, and in 2 weeks, its conclusion, 2 weeks from tonight, is to provide some timely notice to you, whomever is watching. I am providing notice, and I'm very serious about it, unfortunately. It really is both real and serious, and you can put it together and say real serious. And it's happening in a very dramatic way because warfare is dramatic. Everything about conflict is unsettling and upsetting. And you're going to see tonight that I'm not pulling any stops here. I'm literally going to present information that it's not me, and I don't know how many people are going to watch it. Probably not very many, and I don't know if it'll get me taken down or whatever. But the bottom line is you're going to see that just in this past 4 to 6 weeks, we know things are getting much more intense all the time. But sure enough, I get to hear things from people in high places and people with very serious situations and problems. And because they have, some of them, great authority and have to make very important decisions. We know how that works. The chain of command goes higher and higher. But you're going to hear a little bit tonight. I'm going to put on some video if it will work, which I think it will. And it'll give you a chance to see, and I'll stop it at the right spots to give you a little bit of whatever you call that, background information. And so what I'm going to do at this moment, I'm going to, and like I said, we're not doing the usual theological, exegetical, biblical, spiritual, supernatural, blah, blah. But I'm going to tell you that with that knowledge, with however much of that kind of, let's call it connection to reality that each person has, that is going to make a difference in how you interpret everything that I present. So I'm going to start, I'm going to try and pull up this nice little video file. And I'm learning a lot. As usual, I'm always learning stuff. And it's amazing how many neat things I get to keep learning. So let's see now if I can get this to work properly. And voila. Okay, who is this person? Well, as you can see,
She is fighting the good fight to discover the truth about the 2020 Arizona election, and proudly introduce Ms. Karen Pham.
Before he perished.
All right, I'll stop that and I'll back it up to the beginning here so that you can see again. Whoops, I gotta push the button. There we go. All right. Oh, maybe to get a little brighter here. There we go. All right. So I don't know how well you can read that. And so I guess I'd like some feedback. Leonard, I don't know if anybody else is watching, but if you can read that, or is it very blurry? I'd be curious. Let's see, I'm going to put on my glasses and to see it the way I see it right here. Actually, I'll go ahead and push another button if I don't get myself in trouble. Oh yeah, you can read it. I'm sure you can, from what I can see now. So as you can see, this is, yeah, it's kind of blurry. There's a little bit of blur there. And if you make it bigger, my question to you is, are you able to read all of it? That would be the question, even blurry as it is, because the writing is small, because I took a very large shot. Let's see if I can do this. Large, lengthy shot, and that's why it's long and not wide. But that came off of her either website. Can't read it. Okay, well, then I'm going to tell you what it says. It says, President of the Arizona Senate, incumbent. She assumed office on January 14th of 2019. And she was preceded by Steve Yarborough, member of the Arizona Senate from the 1st District. And she is the incumbent of the 1st District, and which is where I am here in Yavapai County. Assumed office on January 9th of 2017. That was my 60th birthday. How about that? Preceded by Steve Pierce, and member of the Arizona House of Representatives from the 1st District. And she was in office. Let me see if I can make that where I can read that. From January 5th of 2011 to January 9th, 2017. So 6 years of that. And preceded by whoever that is. I can't quite read it, but I see succeeded by David Stringer, another person that I happen to know and am getting to know. But anyway, the bottom line here, yeah, we have the comment that it was kind of blurry, can't read it, too small. So I'm glad I mentioned what is there. And you see her sitting, she had her arm in a sling here. If I can back that up. Where is that? Where is her arm? Yeah, there she is. Well, I think actually you'll see her. I'll let her come up again after.
She is fighting the good fight to discover the truth about the 2020 Arizona election, and proudly introduce Ms. Karen Pham.
Before he perished.
Well, here she is. Now, this is, and let me see if I can, how do I do this? And I want to keep it there. I don't know if I can do this. I'm going to try. Yeah, let's try it this way. Because what I can do now is show you this paper on Sheriff Mark. They call him Daniels a lot, but it's obviously Daniels. And I don't know if he pronounces it Daniels. I didn't get to talk to him. But he is the Cochise County Sheriff. And here it talks about his background. I may read that to you shortly. But we're going to listen to what he has to say here. And then after that, I will add to it some other things and some things that we're going to read. But here he is. Let's hear a little bit what he has to say. I hope your volume is up, because it was very low volume. I brought it up as best I could without doing a lot of extra work. But here we are. Here is a 37-year veteran. And oh, very good. I see that maybe somebody else will be watching on Twitter or others. But anyway, last night I mentioned some of this. Here is more. And this is the Cochise County Sheriff, and he works on a national level with the whole National Sheriff's Association and so on. Here he is.
With him, we truly did. And then I was honored to be recommended and elected by the citizens to take over for him. And if I kept saying, you got big shoes, I said, I didn't wear those kind of shoes. But either way, but we lost a dear friend with him. But he did amazing work under 1070. Because actually 1070 has been ruled by the higher court, and the only thing left in is a slice says that we have detention ability until we're told different. Which means if I stop a car and Border Patrol says we have nobody to come get them, we have no authority. And I've challenged that to the Attorney General, to our attorney, our county insurance pool out of Phoenix. I've gone everywhere I can go. And I saw people saying, Sheriff, you can still enforce immigration. Okay, sure, show me where. And that's tough, because as a sheriff, I don't like releasing them. In fact, I made a comment in DC a couple of years ago where I said, this is when we were battling the federal government, they said, we're not gonna come get these folks. I said, then I'll deport them myself. And they said, Sheriff, you get your ass suit off. I said, I'd rather get my ass suit off by the federal government than a citizen of my county's been harmed. And that's how we stood on that.
So what he just said was he'd rather be sued by the government, have his, what did he say? Ass kicked by the government, than having one of his, what are they called? The people in his county hurt. And so that's where we are on that moment of the, let me see, let me keep it going here because it switches now.
You don't put claymores outside the wire when...
Okay, we're going to see who this guy is now. After Sheriff Daniels spoke, this guy came on from the, what are they called? It's actually 4 letters. It's YCPT, the Yavapai County Preparedness Team. And this is, I'm going to do a lot of reading momentarily, but I want you to see what he says about what's going on, this guy, Jim, and see if it rings a bell if you already know this.
The enemy's got the CP. It's a little too late, right? That's what's going on. This country's been penetrated at every level by the communists. This is not a joke. They're going to take us down. What is going on that southern border with those Mexican drug cartels is being run by the CCP. Everybody knows that. That was the dirty little secret that was never a secret. The military knows it. Law enforcement knows it. The Chinese communists are running that operation. They're also running the operations in Chino Valley. Did you know that the Chinese communists are running the drug cartels that are running the marijuana grows in Chino Valley? Really? Yeah.
Now, Chino Valley is directly, gosh, I don't know which way to do this. What happens when I do this? There, now you can see my face anyway. Chino Valley is just north of Prescott, and it's the area that can grow. Prescott on 3 sides is surrounded by national forest, the Prescott National Forest. And so the town has 50,000 people and has nowhere to go as far as expansion. So unless they start tearing down buildings and areas and putting up, high rises, you can't add more people. And that isn't going to happen anyway in Prescott. But in Prescott Valley, it has grown a lot. And now in Chino Valley, it's growing a lot. And so what else are they growing in Chino Valley is lots of very healthy, in the perfect kind of climate weather, lots of the marijuana producers. And as he just mentioned, this is Chinese, whatever you want to call it, a Chinese setup. So here he goes.
See, there's a lot you don't know about what's going on in your communities. And you need to be active right now. People are afraid to come to the meetings because of what happened in Washington, D.C. You know that whole operation was run by the FBI, right? Yeah. That's come out. We knew it. We couldn't say anything about it. But the journalists that broke the stories, the FBI have been running operations like that for decades. It's nothing new. Okay, that whole thing was staged. Is Stewart Rhodes an informant for the federal government? We're going to find out pretty soon here. Okay? If he's not, he'll be arrested and prosecuted. If he's not arrested and prosecuted, and we're working with National right now to try to figure this out, there's a huge shakeup, obviously. People are afraid to be involved with Oath Keepers because of that stupid event. Okay? That's the federal government trying to take us down.
Let me add into what he's saying there. Shoot, I'm trying to figure out which way I should do this. I'll go this one. That way I'm smaller, but you can see my head. This is his organization, the Yavapai County Preparedness Team. And this guy, Jim, we're going to see at the end, it's only a 10-minute blip here altogether. But I've got all of this up for you to copy. And so you'll be able to get the information and check it out online. And even though it's not in your area and you can't participate here locally, there will be things like that, I'm sure, all around the country in the right places. Like, good luck finding one in the San Fernando Valley or Santa Monica in Los Angeles area. But anyway, I'll stop bloviating here and let him continue. And absolutely, you're very welcome. I want everybody to find this kind of stuff because, as you're going to see, and as it said on my board here, get ready. You better have your stuff in order. And this guy's going to say it real well right here, right now.
That's what they want to do. They want us out of the military. They want us out of law enforcement. When what is it we represent? Freedom. Upholding and defending the Constitution, right? That's why we're called the Oath Keepers. Sheriff Daniels mentioned that. That's what Sheriff Mack does. If you're not willing to uphold and defend the Constitution of these United States, hit the road. It's not what it's about. But the communists are in charge. They've got Washington. They've got the FBI. They've got a lot of our local law enforcement. And they're not playing games. This is a communist takeover at a global level. We are the final phase. If they take us down, everything goes. They're going to fail. The Cuban government are very good at this. Those people will be squelched and murdered. They're being killed by the dozens right now as we speak. They don't stand a chance. The Russians are not going to give up that port. That's a Russian military base in Cuba. They're not going to give it up. So that's a done deal. How about France?
Oh.
Okay,
How about South Africa?
France. What is the common denominator here? South Africa, Cuba, France. What's the real issue going to be? Food. Food is a weapon by the UN. That's what they use. That's how they will control you. What's really happening in South Africa right now, which is why you need to prepare at warp speed right now. Everybody should leave here and hit Costco on their way home. I'm not kidding. That's what you should be doing. Food is the issue. South Africa, they didn't just loot the grocery stores. They didn't just burn the grocery stores. They looted and burned the distribution centers and the trucks. They're burning the ports so nothing can go in and out. They are burning the crops. South Africa will starve to death in a very short period of time. There won't be food. Okay, this has always been the communist goal. This is what they want to do here. This is why our food prices are going up. This is why there are supply chain disruptions. And this is why there are going to be more shortages in the very near future.
Yeah, by the way, I've been telling you this for what? At least a year and a half. We are in different phases of, first of all, World War III, which started with a it's a bioeconomic attack, and it's global, right? I mean, everybody knows that this is not a U.S. problem. And you can see other countries really being squeezed. And why are they squeezed? Who's squeezing them? And how do they squeeze them? So I'll let Jim continue here.
Okay, you already saw it with COVID. This next go round, they want to shut down. There are plans in Washington to lock down the country, just like England. Okay, we're not talking about Arizona or Prescott, or we might close a few businesses. No, we're talking about a nationwide shutdown. England is on the verge right now, locking down COVID Delta variant and the other variants that are right behind it that you probably haven't heard the code words for. Yeah, that's their goal. This is a communist takeover to do a global reset on the economy.
By the way, didn't I say that? I don't know. Some of you haven't been with me long enough to know, because I've been doing these Periscope broadcasts. This is, well, originally that's what they were, for 3 years and 3 months by the time March came along and we had to switch over. Okay, so think about it. During the probably entire time, I was talking about preparing for the future and things of all kinds, including things such as this and the problems that we're having now. By the time January of 20 rolled around, well, between November and January, especially December and January of 19 and 20, I knew that this stuff was on tap and the fire was already being lit and things were getting hot. Okay, then I discussed for months everything you could do, like remember Thieves, this brand calls it Nature's Shield, essential oils, so that you don't get the bug. And now they want everybody to take the vaccine, and they're not talking about it. They didn't tell us we were going to run out of toilet paper. Well, now when we run out of food and when the prices go up and everything that's happening already, this is not something I'm making up for the future. It already happened and it's continuing. Okay, well, watch what Jim says here.
They want to tear down the economy. They're going to destroy the dollar. The Russians are already dumping the dollar. That's a fact. So watch what happens when the Chinese go there, the dollar's going to tank. And this will happen within 24 hours. When they pull the plug, that's it, it's game over. So you need to be ready. Our job is to train you to be ready. So you know how to do that? You come to the meetings, you get out from under the beds and stop hiding, show up and train. Because if you're not prepared and equipped, you're not going to make it. It's that simple. I can't put it any plainer than that. And you guys have known me a long time. So come to the meetings and be ready. Ed's got some information there. Best way to find us, ycpt.org. Okay, everything's posted there. ycpt.org. Schedule is there. The classes we're doing. Guess who's going to be at our meeting?
No,
14th August? The sheriff. Yep. We are still in good standing with our sheriff.
Yeah.
So we confirm that. Come and hear our sheriff talk to you about Yavapai County. Now we know what's going on in Cochise County. That's a good thing, but all the sheriffs need to work together.
And
That's not going to happen. As Sheriff Daniel said, most of the sheriffs are like. I also spoke to Sheriff Masher. I called him. I said, hey, Sheriff Rhodes wants to come to the meeting. You want to come? Oh, yeah.
That's the previous sheriff here in Yavapai County. And so these sheriffs are in charge of hundreds of sheriffs because they have the 4 stars and they've got all the sheriffs underneath them, you know. And what else was I going to say here? I was thinking of something that was just said. And I guess it had to do with the fact that we have to be prepared. And that means logistically, well, he's going to say it. Let me continue here.
I want to be there. So we're trying to get everybody together to come in and bring you up to speed on what we're planning for Yavapai County to finish your training, because this is going to come apart here pretty quick. Okay? As the results come out from Maricopa County, there's going to be a big crackdown on this state.
Yeah, I showed you a picture at the beginning of this broadcast, and you saw Karen Fann up there at the podium, the president of the Senate. And unfortunately, the way the Senate is set up right now, in Arizona, state senators, I think it's something like 31 to 29, or total of 60 senators. And I forget what the deal is now with the state congresspersons or whatever that are in the legislature. We barely have, and that's what she said. I didn't play that for you, but she said we really have to bone up in the election and get more people elected that can swing things so we don't have the same situation that we do with the Senate and the Congress in Washington. But that is happening in various states, you know, where you have a Republican legislature and yet the Democrats are able to, you know, gain points, and which is what we have in Washington as well. But yeah, I keep interrupting him because he keeps saying these things that I want to interject. But here goes Jim again.
The federal government is not happy with us right now, I can tell you that. Right? Not happy with us.
We're not happy with them either.
Well, they're coming hard and fast, so you had better be ready. You need to be armed, equipped, trained, and you've got to have your logistics. Okay? You've got to have your food, water, weapons, ammunition, and medical supplies. If you don't have that, and this thing comes off the rails, which it's about to, you're not going to make it. We can only train you if you're willing to show up and bring family and friends. That's how this works. Okay? I hope to see you guys at the next meeting. Thank you.
All right, so look, here you got everything you need. Phone number, fax, cell, okay? And on the back side, of course, you don't have the card, I do. Get out of jail free card. Notice, good on February 29th of odd years only. Here is the card, Jim's card from YCPT. And see the Yavapai County preparedness team, and a phone number and email. And if you don't have an organization around you, you can call these people and say, hey, help me start one. And so all of that to say, as an introduction tonight, that, and let's see what else, because I didn't see all the other good stuff here. All that to say, let me see, how do I quit all this now? Remove, boom. That we're out of time. And here's a earlier comment. Oh, pretty recent. Yeah, and that's why what Jim was just saying about how the federal government is not happy with Arizona. We're about to, you know, blow the lid off of what actually happened that is the opposite of election integrity and is the way things are going. And as Leonard added in here, people won't vote if they don't trust the system. Well, hey, guess what? You won't get to vote because you'll be in jail, or you'll be living like the commies do, 30 to 1 apartment. Either that or you will be detained somewhere and, you know, chop rocks. The point is, the war that Jim was just talking about, this fact that the communists have a goal in mind and they won't settle for anything less. So eventually, if we want to deny that, it's going to take everything we have, including, you know, like the Constitution about their very lives and sacred honor. Okay. We are in that kind of situation. And that's why tonight I have all of this, these, let's say, about 50 pages. And I'm going to read a couple of things to you. One of them that I want you to know about, and all of these letters start after the inauguration. So they're all dated from January and forward up until, I think I have a couple of them that I've got January, February, March. You know, it's very interesting here. This is all set up really nicely. Eventually, end of March, still end of March. Then it gets into May. Oh, there's an April one, 2 April ones. And then we have May and as recent as June 10th. Now, a lot of stuff gets put in the news, in the, whatever you want to call it, sort of mainstream media, whether it's something like the more conservative ones, and I'm going to say Fox used to be a big one, and that was it. And then everything else, all the cable networks and the old, what did we used to call it? The old broadcasting corporations, the ABCs, NBCs, CBS, all of those things were on one side. Well, they're still on one side, but we now have at least 3 or 4 of sorts, let's call them networks, whether it's Fox, NTD, Newsmax, RSBN. And I don't know how many people even know, and I know they're growing, so more and more people know about it, but how many people know about all this stuff? Well, even those are not able, and that's one thing about news cycles and news stories. They don't read you an entire letter, right? They show you 3 or 4 sentences and they highlight one in yellow and a second one, and then they go on to something else. Well, we're going to look at whole letters like this one, which is from Governor Greg Abbott of Texas and Governor Doug Ducey of Arizona to the fellow governors, dated June 10th, okay? And you have, it's just a, one side and the other, and then their signatures. But there's another one from the National Sheriff's Association, and this is dated May 27th, and it is addressed to the president. I've got another one that's for both the president and the vice president. And what I want you to see out of this one is I've got the backside of it, and that's signed by the executive director and CEO. By the way, look, it's got CCs, and I think I mentioned this the other night, to Mayorkas, the Secretary of Homeland Security, and then these other sheriffs, including Mark Daniels, or Daniels, however you want to pronounce it, chair of the National Sheriff Association Board. See, we got these kind of guys. And then the next letter that goes back to May 11th, as I mentioned, to both President Biden and Vice President Harris. And there are the seals of states. And at the end of that letter, and now we're going to get into this, the second page, are the signatures of all of these governors of all of these states. And so that's just to get us started. And like I said, I have a lot of stuff that I'm trying to filter through and figure out what I can read to you that you generally don't get in the press, and that can impress upon you the level of significance. And I want to mention this now, the level of significance that is not being given about the seriousness of this situation in the media. For example, it's Title 42, I think it's called, is the document that was used, written in the previous Trump administration, whereby the illegal immigrants would come in and they would be returned, and there was no issue with that, no problem. That was all fine and good. And so apparently that communication was both legal and executed. And that's what we had going on. So for example, we would have maybe, let's say 100,000, 118,000, whatever the number was, people coming in last year. And I think a lot, if not most of them, got returned. Okay, so they got in and then they got sent away. This year, year to date, so we're only what? Into the beginning of the second half of the year. We're at 1.1 million, let's say. But here's what, and I wish people would stay on and watch and see and hear what I'm going to say next, because, okay, right now, up to July, from January, let's say, to end of June, we've had, say, 1.1 or 1.2 million illegal immigrants come in that aren't even being returned and sent back. And guess what? When that Title 42 ends, which it's the date on it, the termination or ending date of that policy is around the middle or late August. I've been informed that there's a possibility, first of all, the federal government will kind of go into some kind of action once we get to 2 million people. Here's the bad news. We'll probably get 1 million people a month starting as soon as that Title 42 is ended. And so that means that the federal government is supposed to do something. Something is supposed to kick in and action is supposed to start. But imagine, here's the point. I don't know how this can be, but if you can have almost 1 million people a month, so let's say 30,000 people a day instead of 3,000 a day coming in. I don't know how they can do that, but apparently there's enough porousness. And so we're going to read first the letter from 2 governors of Texas and Arizona directed to all their fellow 48 governors. Here it is, June 10th, 2021. We write to you regarding our existing, and then it says EMAC, Emergency Management Assistance Compact, which empowers our state to help one another in times of disaster or emergency. Those 2 words aptly describe the current crisis at America's southern border. Now, I want you to see this. That's the first paragraph. I'm reading it and I'm just showing you a little bit so you can see that what I'm reading is right there. See, look, disaster or emergency in italics. All right, continuing. On behalf of Texas and Arizona, we respectfully but urgently request that you send all available law enforcement resources to the border in defense of our sovereignty and territorial integrity. Notice that you send all available law enforcement resources to the border. Securing our border with Mexico is the federal government's responsibility, but the Biden administration has proven unwilling or unable to do the job. This failure to enforce federal immigration laws causes bans that spill over into every state. The cartels will see to it that their deadly fentanyl and human trafficking victims reach far and wide. The convicted criminals they smuggle into the homeland will bring recidivism with them to far too many of your communities. And although people are now coming to our border from as far away as Senegal, Senegal, however you want to pronounce it, Bangladesh, and Uzbekistan, the cartels are not exactly screening for threats to public health or national security. By the way, if we were watching on the news channels, you wouldn't have seen or read these 2 paragraphs, and we'd already be at a commercial. Thank goodness we don't have that on these broadcasts. Ugh. Continuing. Of course, border states like Texas and Arizona are ground zero for this crisis and bear a disproportionate share of these burdens. For example, Texas has spent roughly $3.5 billion since 2014 to help secure the border and protect public safety. Since President Biden took office, Governor Abbott has deployed to the border 1,000 troopers from the Texas Department of Public Safety. We call that DPS, those of us who've been in Texas. Troopers, 1,000 of them from DPS, along with hundreds of soldiers from the Texas National Guard. Governor Ducey has taken similar action, deploying hundreds of soldiers from the Arizona National Guard to the border and utilizing troopers from the Arizona Department of Public Safety and other law enforcement partners as part of the Arizona Border Strike Force. Since its inception, the Arizona Border Strike Force has intercepted 284 pounds of fentanyl, which represents tens of millions of lethal doses that will never reach your streets, along with numerous illegal firearms and tens of thousands of pounds of other drugs. In response to the ongoing surge of illegal border crossings with the accompanying threats to private property and to the safety of our citizens, Governor Abbott has declared a disaster and Governor Ducey has declared an emergency. Among other legal consequences, these gubernatorial declarations allow our states to call in reinforcements under the Emergency Management Assistance Compact. See Texas Health and Safety Code, Section 778.001, enacting the compact. Arizona Revised Statute, Section 26-402, same. Congress consented to the compact on the heels of enacting the Illegal Immigration Reform and Immigrant Responsibility Act of 1996, see publication L104-321. With this consent, the terms of the compact were transformed into federal law to be enforced by the states themselves. Kyler versus Adams, 449 U.S. Number 433, 440, 1981. I will just show that to you a little bit because I like you to see what I'm reading. Those top two lines right there. And we're almost done. See, we got that much more. So I'll read the rest of the letter that you will not get on the news. Article 1 of the compact provides for mutual assistance between the states in managing any emergency or disaster that is duly declared by the governor of the affected states, whether arising from natural disaster, community disorders, insurgency, or enemy attack, in quotes. Now, by the way, I'm reading this to you. I'm not making it up. It's not in the newspaper. I'm not exaggerating. I mean, this is just what you don't see that's already going on. Okay, and what are they calling it? Things like natural disaster, community disorders, insurgency, or enemy attack. When it comes to the Biden administration's open border disaster, our greatest need is for additional law enforcement personnel and equipment. Pursuant to Article 4, therefore, any officers you can send to Texas or Arizona will be afforded, quote, the same powers, ... duties, rights, and privileges as are afforded forces of the state in which they are performing emergency services, end quote. Crucially, this will include the power to arrest migrants who illegally cross the border into our territory. Many of these crossings involve state law crimes such as criminal trespassing or smuggling of persons. See example given, Texas Penal Codes, paragraphs 20.01, 30.05, Arizona Revised Statutes, section 13-1502. See also Texas Penal Code, section 12.50, which in parentheses, increasing punishment for criminal trespass in a disaster area. So they can compound it. And most of them entail federal law crimes too, including illegal entry and illegal re-entry. As the U.S. Department of Justice opined in 1996, the same year the compact won congressional consent, and here it is, quote, state and local police may constitutionally detain or arrest aliens for violating the criminal provisions of the Immigration and Naturalization Act 20, and I don't know, OP.2 L.C.26. However you read that, since I don't really know that statute right there. Okay, Immigration and Naturalization Act. All right, and now finally, given the staggering number of violations now occurring in Texas and Arizona, additional manpower is needed from any state that can spare it. With your help, we can apprehend more of these perpetrators of state and federal crimes before they can cause problems in your state. As required by Article 11 or 111B, very interesting. Maybe it's 11LB. You decide. I let you see it. Where is that? Right there. Whatever that means. So as required by that article of the compact, authorized representatives from Texas and Arizona will be contacting their counterparts in your state to prepare an appropriately detailed request for law enforcement assistance. Texas and Arizona have stepped up to secure the border in the federal government's absence, and now the Emergency Management Assistance Compact gives your state a chance to stand strong with us. Sincerely, Greg Abbott and Doug Ducey. Now, I'm reading you a letter that you certainly have not seen in the newspapers, on TV, maybe even online anywhere. I'm not saying it doesn't exist anywhere else. I'm just saying two things. One, you haven't seen it because you probably haven't. And two, we wouldn't have this and I wouldn't be reading it if we weren't in dire straits, to quote the name of the band. I happen to like Dire Straits, but I don't like this at all. So, I read that to you, and I'm trying to think now, since we're short on time, I'm trying to decide, do I want to read the first letter addressed only to the president from the National Sheriff's Association, from the executive director and CEO, or would I rather read, and I think I do want to read, it's shorter, well, it's smaller writing too. Look, this is the end of the second page of this one, and this is the first page of this one. Notice the type is smaller. But this one is signed by, on the second page, all of these governors, and then on a third page, the rest of the governors of these United States. So why don't we read that one? Also, you'll appreciate the content. So showing how many here? 7, 14, 20 states seals addressed to the Honorable Joseph R. Biden Jr. and the Honorable, however you want to say her name, Kamala D. Harris. Dear President Biden and Vice President Harris, we call on you to take action on the crisis at the southern border immediately. Contrary to statements from your administration, the border is neither closed nor secure. It's a nice way for all these 20 governors to address the president and vice president, isn't it? In fact, the Customs and Border Patrol, CBP, reports a staggering surge in recent crossings. Remember, this is dated May 11th. 172,000 encounters in March, the highest number in nearly 20 years, as well as 18,890 unaccompanied children, the largest monthly number in history. So 172 encounters and, let's say, 19,000 kiddos. The crisis is too big to ignore and is now spilling over the border states into all of our states. Recently, the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, HHS, called upon many of our states to identify potential housing locations for migrants. In addition, the department circumvented our states altogether by asking private organizations and nonprofits to house unaccompanied migrant children. Now, we all know these stories from the news. Let me see here. Governor Lee signed on from Tennessee. There we go. I got to add this in. And let me see here. Since we're talking about Governor Lee, where is... Check it out. Kind of cool. The first signature. So, and did I put this on here? I'm putting it on. Yeah, that's right, I did. So, continuing, let's see. Okay, I mentioned the crisis is too big to ignore, now spilling over the border states into all states. Recently, U.S. Department of Health and Human Services called upon many of our states to identify potential housing locations for migrants. In addition, the department circumvented our states altogether by asking private organizations and nonprofits to house unaccompanied migrant children. Often these facilities lack adequate security, allowing the federal government to place a potentially unlimited number, notice, potentially unlimited number of unaccompanied migrant children into our state's facilities for an unspecified length of time with almost zero transparency is unacceptable and unsustainable. We have neither the resources nor the obligation to solve the federal government's problem and foot the bill for the consequences of this administration's misguided actions. Yeah. This administration has enticed a rush of immigrants to our border and incentivized an influx of illegal crossings by using irresponsible rhetoric and reversing a slew of policies, from halting border wall construction to eliminating asylum agreements to refusing to enforce immigration laws. Even officials of our neighbor, Mexico, reportedly conveyed concerns that the shift in U.S. policy is stoking illegal immigration and creating business for organized crime. Thank you, Mr. President and, Ms. Vice President. As Mexican President Andres Manuel Lopez Obrador stated, quote, "They see him as the migrant president, and so many feel they're going to reach the United States. We need to work together to regulate the flow because this business can't be tackled from one day to the next," end quote. That's the president of Mexico, who is very much socialist. So he's got a problem here with this even. The cause of the border crisis is entirely due to reckless federal policy reversals executed within your first 100 days in office. The rhetoric of the Biden administration and the rollback, sounds like Walmart, the rollback of critical agreements with our allies have led to the inhumane treatment of tens of thousands of children and undermined a fragile immigration system. While the most direct victims of the policy changes will be the children exploited and trafficked by gangs and cartels, the disastrous impact of your policies on America's recovery will be far-reaching. Excuse me. Federal, state, and local authorities are overwhelmed, and the situation on the ground is heartbreaking. After a dangerous journey, many children are living in overcrowded conditions with uncertain futures and without parents or loved ones to care for them. By the way, you can just visualize in your mind all those, TV shots of those, whatever you call them, blankets that are supposed to be, insulating. And so they're all aluminum and all that stuff. And so there we go, without parents or loved ones to care for them. Beyond the humanitarian crisis, the lack of border security is a criminal one, threatening the very safety of American citizens. The CBP reports a 233% increase in the seizure of fentanyl compared to January last year. By the way, now it's through the roof. It's like tenfold, exacerbating the nation's opioid epidemic. law enforcement officials are recovering drugs, illegal narcotics, and weapons being smuggled across the border by cartels. The same cartels that are also trafficking men, women, and children and jeopardizing their lives. At a time when our country is trying to recover from a once-in-a-generation pandemic, not once in a, what do you call it, century, the last thing we need is a self-created crisis that exploits families, undermines public safety, and threatens our national security. We urge you to take action to end the humanitarian crisis and secure our southern border immediately. Sincerely, and here you have governors of Tennessee, Alabama, Arizona, Arkansas, Georgia, Idaho, Indiana, Iowa, Mississippi, Missouri, Montana, Nebraska, New Hampshire, North Dakota, Oklahoma, South Carolina, South Dakota, state of Texas, state of Utah, state of Wyoming. Now, what's wrong with that letter? Let me tell you one thing that letter has not even touched. Is the fact that what is going on is not a crisis and is not a problem of migrants coming across the border and trying to get into this country and the drugs and the guns. You know, if that were the problem, I'd say that's a problem. But what we really have is a war. And the war is being fought on several fronts that are absolutely not conventional warfare, with airplanes and tanks and ships and soldiers with their guns and their grenades and all that. It's everything we just read about. It's all that. And where does all that come from? Does it just come from, well, we have a President Trump, and so all these people are trying to come across the border? Remember, it wasn't Biden, it was Trump. And there they were coming. And then, oh, now under Biden, you might as well get them those Escalades and pick them all up in those nice, shiny Cadillac SUVs, and pick them up and bring them to a hotel and then give them money and put them on a plane and send them to Minnesota and send them to New Jersey and send them wherever. But the point is, this is the kind of 21st century warfare that you can call a major world war. Remember, they say, oh, there's been people from something like, I've heard the numbers, but let's say 130 countries that are coming across our border. And like I heard today, they're coming from places like Haiti. And I forget what other places that were so off the wall. And it was interesting because part of the problem is, well, what? They're not walking. They're either flying or they got to go across on a ship to get from, let's say, Haiti over to Mexico. And then they can start walking or catch buses or whatever they do in these caravans. But the point I'm getting at is everything I have said seems to be either two ways to say it, coming true or a lot worse than I even projected or said. And what I'm saying is, and the reason for that video earlier tonight, where you could hear certain things from other people, it's not me saying it, like I'm the only one and I'm a purveyor of truth and prophecy of the future. No, I'm just saying what I'm hearing, and I know you're hearing it too. We're all hearing certain amounts, and we're all seeing certain things, and I'm seeing some really weird stuff. Wait till you see the rest of this next time, whatever I can present. And I hope this was motivating to you, what we saw and talked about tonight, because I'm going to try to aggrandize it in the next meeting 2 weeks from tonight so that you can see more aspects. And by then, there will be a lot more that happen, because I can almost feel it, that because obviously in the next 2 to 4 weeks, a lot's going to happen. And I'm thinking that even if a couple of big things happen in the next coming weeks, especially in the next 2, a thing or two. You'll see even more than necessity. Now, remember, Jim from the YCPT, Yavapai County Preparation or Preparedness Team, what he said about when everybody that was at the meeting, it's like, you shouldn't go home now. You should first go directly to Costco and get stuff, you know. And so if you don't already have a substantial setup of long-term, I don't need anything from anybody setup, if you don't have that, you need to get it going as much as possible immediately. There's another reason to do it immediately. If you try and go in 2 weeks or in 6 weeks, whatever it is you want to buy right now today, it's going up in price. Have you noticed the price of food going up in the stores? Everything is going up, and inflation is definitely a reality. We were at 0, and we're now somewhere, I've heard numbers like 5%, 12%, or going to 12 if it's already at 5 and they're expecting it right away to go to that next number, whatever. Point is, we're going to have all these issues, and you need to get ready now. So like I wrote here, warning, alert, note well, vigilance required, Boy Scout motto, be prepared, get ready. So get your stuff. And it doesn't hurt to have a bunch of stuff that you normally need. Am I saying to hoard? Am I saying to get everything right now? No. Let's say you go to Costco and you don't have any more toilet paper. So you go down there and you just buy those big bags of them. And you only buy one. What do you mean only buy one? Well, you could buy 2, right? Well, and the price is going to go up. No, I say buy one and go back in a couple of weeks and buy another. Now, if the balloon goes up, you're only going to have one. So if you want to buy 2, you could do that. I already have 2 and I don't have to buy any. Why? Because I bought one and then, you know, a month or 2 later, I bought another one and I had some left over already. So at that point, I had more than 2. Should see my garage. My mom used to say this house is like a store with nothing for sale. And then I told my mom last year, oh yeah, well now you should see the house. It's kind of like a box store with nothing for sale, you know, a Costco or Walmart or Sam's Club or something. Well, we may think that's funny, and I have stabilized fuel, and I really need to get a solar generator instead of my 21-year-old gas generator. But it is a 10,000 watt generator, and I always have about 50 gallons of stabilized fuel, which means if I baby it and nurse it, I can have electricity to run things like my refrigerators and freezers, and I can charge up, you know, batteries of things. And I do have marine cell batteries, 2 of them, 55 amp batteries that I can power up a lot of stuff as well. And, you know, you've got to have food. And if you're not a firearms person, I see a comment here. Yeah, that's what I am, a mini box store. Big enough for one to have supplies for, let's say, 18 months. Will I ever need all that? I absolutely don't know. I only know one thing, is if I need it, I have it. And this wasn't something that I did over a period of a week or a month or a year. I mean, I've been doing this stuff for ages. And there's still room for improvement and boning up in certain areas. But in general, the point is when the proverbial poo-poo hits the fan, certain people are prepared. And I'm definitely one who is mostly prepared. So that's why I say, be prepared. Get ready. New waves coming. And people who knew me a few years ago and then all of a sudden COVID hit and I said, don't worry about that. Get yourself set up with Nature's Shield and things like that. Have this essential oil blend, blah, blah. And you put a little bit, let's see if I can get that on there. You put a little bit on your finger and put one on each of your 4 quadrants of your gums and do that in the morning and do that at night. And guess what? You probably never get a cold, never get a sore throat, never get the flu, probably can't get any of the varieties of COVID, whether it's from SARS-1, SARS-2, you know, all these weird things. And sure, you know, you could get shot by an incoming commie. I always say, if they're going to come here, they're going to come in droves. And so what I'll do is I'll try to take as many of them with me. And that would be the best I could do. That way, when they go to the next house to the north, there'll be less of them. So be all that as it may, and crazy as it all sounds, all I'm doing is saying, for those with ears to hear, get ready. And we're in for a ride. We're in for some crazy stuff coming up. And we all kind of know that, don't we? So the best I can do is tell you, go for it. Get ready. And that's what I've done. And that's what I'm continuing to do. I have areas of improvement. Like I said, I can keep doing more. And I'm glad I bought many rounds for all my particular instruments, because now they're much more expensive and for a lot of people more difficult to get. But in the case around here, it's not yet as impossible as it would be if you lived in a place like Los Angeles, where it's very difficult to get things. By the way, here I am. I don't have a mask indoors. I don't have a mask outdoors. I take one with me. You never know if I'm going to tick somebody off. But like in California, at least in Los Angeles, you don't go anywhere without a mask. And I don't know what they do to people when they arrest them, or what, you know, are they doing? And what about all the homeless people? It must be just a mess. So that's why I wanted to read a little bit, and I hope that that was informational. Some of the stuff, the letters that I have, I am definitely going to read a couple of other things so that you can see what people are doing and saying. And these people are significant people. You know, for example, there's an organization called Arizona Border Counties Coalition. And it's signed by these 4 people. And they are representatives. And they're talking, you know, the subject is your mobilization of Arizona National Guard on the border. And then it's got all these CCs. You know, like, look, the top one there is Honorable Mark Daniels, Cochise County Sheriff. And see all these people that sign all this stuff. They're the Arizona Border Counties Coalition. And they're all writing and talking about the need for certain things to get done. And so, for example, from the office of Mark Daniels, who up here on the top it says is the sheriff, get that where you can see it, and his chief of staff. And then notice it's addressed to Governor Ducey, declares state of emergency on the southern border. Actually, it's addressed to, I guess it was mainly for all of the Arizona National Guard, the Arizona sheriffs, all that. What they did is the Western States Sheriff Association made a position statement. And this is from end of March. And watch this. The letter starts, and then, see, I'm missing a line. Did it miss it? Yeah, it missed a line at the bottom. But notice right here, all of this, these are the 2020 Executive Board President, First Vice President, Secretary, Treasurer, Sergeant at Arms, Past President. It's all these bunch of people, state representatives, whatever. And what they did is they said Western States Sheriffs Association Resolution 2021-3, meaning for March. And its address is actually in Wyoming, because that's the Western States Association office. And then for pages, it goes, whereas the Western States Sheriff's Association Border Security Committee represents sheriffs from 17 states west of the Mississippi River, and whereas all the member sheriffs of the Western states, blah, 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 whereas the current lack of security on our border, blah, 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 whereas, and so I'm going to be reading what all of those comments are, and I hope it will still be timely when I do it, because it'll be 2 weeks from now. Look, another page of whereases, and then finally a couple more here, and then it says, resolved, the Western States Sheriff's Association Board Security Committee recommends the following, and then they give these 9 recommendations that I think you'll be interested in hearing about. So I'll read the first one. The current administration should acknowledge with absolute clarity of language that a national security, public safety, and humanitarian crisis exists on the border to galvanize our national efforts to address it in a manner completely devoid of politics. That's a good first point. So, like I said, I think we will try to hit some of that, and I'm sure I'll have more odds and ends, including some video with some health tips. And again, this is not Monday or Wednesday, so I get to do all this other stuff instead of the usual, official hat that I wear as an exegete and pastor type minister person of, theological persuasion. But tonight we talk about, if you know all that other stuff from Mondays and Wednesdays, how does that affect your life? And so as I titled tonight, Thursday Special 07-22-21 with Philippe, blah, 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 about, man your battle stations. And that's where we are. And so on that note, it's funny, at those other meetings, they open and close in prayer at where you saw the sheriff and the guy from Yavapai County Preparedness Team. And at the very beginning, the president of the Arizona Senate. And so it's interesting. I guess we could close in prayer. We didn't open in prayer, but I think it's all the stuff that we just talked about is something to be prayerful and pray about. So let's go ahead and close in prayer and call it a night. And I hope you have a great weekend, and hope to see you on Monday night, where we continue in this wonderful theological treatise on heathenism, which, by the way, we're being influxed with a lot of that from all these migrants and drug dealers and whatever all they are. So on that note, let's have a quick closing prayer and call it a night. And Leonard says, thank you. And I always reply, you're welcome. And thank you, Leonard, for being there. You're always there when we get together and do this. I'm not alone. And I did have some other people. I don't know if they're still there or not, but good night to anybody who has stuck this far to watch the craziness here. Yeah, this is definitely, we are praying for this nation, and God's not, that's another thing I've been hearing. God's not done with this nation. So I have a feeling that things could work out half decent. And hopefully better. So on that note, let's close in prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for your grace. We thank you for your superintendence over this client nation, your client nation, the client nation in the world today, the nation that is responsible for disseminating the gospel and teaching Bible doctrine and sending out missionaries all across the world to help bring the good news of the gospel. And we know that especially in this nation that you have superintended over so faithfully and wonderfully for almost around 250 years worth. There are so many great things in this land and such a great system of freedom and so many possibilities. Please help us to, number one, understand all of that better and better every day. And number two, help to express it to others, especially those who don't even know you, and to have the opportunity to come alongside, as the word parakletos in Greek says, come alongside and comfort one another, comfort. And like in Isaiah 1:18, let us reason together. And so I pray for a certain a manifestation of your spirit amongst the governmental leaders in this country who know you and others who know you a little, but that there would be a spirit of cooperation and a community building effort. No, that sounds impossible when it comes to, let's call it the unforgiven and unregenerate and forsaken bunch that are so lost and so far from you. And yet nothing is impossible with you. And so we're claiming a lot of promises right now and asking you to fulfill them and to use us to do that. And please make it possible for us to do well and to continue in your guidance and for your, your glory and benefit, and that you would give us the wherewithal to figure it out and to do all the right things. And this Saturday, I will go to that YCPT meeting and meet up with all these people and see what else we can do as we get closer to a period where maybe a lot of things are going to really get weird. So we ask for your protection, we ask for your guidance, and that you continue to teach us and grow us in a way that glorifies you and benefits us too. And we thank you for all these things and ask them, as always, B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach, in Christ's name, amen. I hope that wasn't too long-winded. I know the Lord was listening, but I hope it doesn't get other people perturbed if they got to hear it. Especially when you're telling everybody that they should be doing or could be doing what would glorify God. And some people think that's disgusting. Some of our national leaders that are so antagonistic. Man, there are a bunch of them. See, our government is getting overwhelmed with a bunch of these crazy people. And it's really a problem, isn't it? So, on that note, Leonard and I wish each other and salute. Wish you a good night also and a good weekend. And stay well. And maybe we'll get a chance to connect, get in touch. If not this weekend, one of these weekends. But we got to get in touch. So let's see what. Yeah, that's what we are all trying to do, right? Whatever God leads us to do. And it's great. And if we do that, both he is happy with us and we can be happy too, and will be and are. So like it says here, warning, warning. Remember that show in the 60s? Warning, warning. What was his name? Will Robinson. Danger, danger, danger. I didn't put danger anywhere, but I put alert. And yeah, vigilance required. So we will do just fine. And so have a good one until the next time. And let's make that Monday night, the usual time, 7:30. And I think we will continue in the heathenism book. And it's going to get very interesting because we have a lot of heathens. We can be seeing what they're all about, even before we know them. Oh, we already know a lot. That's true. All right. So have